Welcome back to TCM's Women Make Film series. I'm Alicia Malone, and I'm thrilled that for the rest of the night's programming, I'm joined by a two-time Academy Award-winning filmmaker, Barbara Kopple. Welcome back to TCM.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be back here and also to have you all in my home.
I know, I wish we could actually be in the same space as one another, but I'm excited to talk to you about this first film because it's your first film, Harlan County, USA from 1976. So before we get into the content of the film, I'd love to know, what were you doing at this time before you made this movie?
Before I made this movie, I was learning everything I possibly could about making films. I was doing sound, and I was doing editing, and I was doing camera work. And one of the editors that I worked with would be so great to me. He would go and he would say, okay, I'm going out to lunch, here's an hour, you cut this down to 20 minutes by the time I get back, and has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I was getting my chops together. I also worked with the Maisel brothers on Gimme Shelter, on 4 door-to-door Bible salesmen, and I remember running up to the salesmen when they were coming to the premiere and putting my arms around them, and they're going like, who are you? And I just felt, oh, I know you so well from the film. So different things like this, a lot of wonderful things.
That's incredible. So it sounds like by the time you were ready to make your film, you were really ready. So how did you come up with this idea to follow this coal miners' strike in Kentucky, in this very small town? And was there a time when you realized that it would be a bigger story than you had anticipated?
Well, I heard actually on NPR that there was going to be an election in the coal mines, and this very corrupt union leader named W.A. Tony Boyle was going to have opponents who were right out of the coal mines, Arnold Miller and Harry Patrick. And I figured, wow, that's going to be a very interesting story. So I was able to raise $12,000 as a loan and go down and follow that campaign. During that campaign, Boyle was picked up for instigating the murder of Joseph Jock Yablonsky, which had happened in the last election. Miller got in, and he's said, I'm going to organize the unorganized. And so I felt, okay, where are we going? And so the first place was Eastern Kentucky. Harlan County was the first place that I went.
Wow, so being that you were from New York, how did you begin to build trust with people in this town?
Well, at the very beginning, we didn't get to build any trust. I sort of looked a little bit like a hippie, and I had a shawl on, and I did sound, on this film and on others for 17 years. And the first day they said, okay, well, you have to come down to the picket line. And we said, okay, we'll be there. And it was pouring rain, and the hill that we were going down, the mountain, was very steep, and the car went over. We were all okay, and we came out with our gear, and we walked all the way to the picket line, and it was from that moment on they trusted us. We lived in their houses. They took care of us. We took care of them.
Well, tonight's theme is all about conversations, and that is at the heart of your film. This isn't one of those traditional documentaries with narration and talking heads and interviews. It's very much following the action as it unfolds. So was that a conscious decision on your part to keep the focus on the people of Harlan County? We hear your voice, but only once or twice during the film.
Oh, I just wanted to let them be who they were. I mean, having conversations, catching moments, being a sound person, I always had my headphones on, and I usually had wireless mics on them so I wouldn't miss anything. And if I wanted the camera person to film something, I'd just shift the battery belt because we were doing 16mm film then.
So when it comes to creating conversations on documentaries, Do you have a particular philosophy? Is it about, letting the camera roll and allowing people to reveal themselves? Or do you have a plan about the sound bites that you want to get from each particular moment?
I never have a plan. I just want the people to be who they are and what they are. And I love talking to them because they're always much more interesting than I could ever be. So I'll go around whatever corner they want and just keep going. And because I'm doing the sound, I hear everything, so I know what's special.
Well, I can't wait to see this film again. So let's watch Barbara Kopple. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's take a look. Here it is, the winner of the Best Documentary Oscar, Harlan County, USA. That was Harlan County, USA. Still such a powerful, incredible movie. It follows the coal miners' strike, but as you just saw, women are at the heart of the story. And I'm joined once again by director Barbara Kopple. Barbara, did you always know that that would be the case, that the women would really be an important part of this whole story?
Oh, I so knew that the women would be a part of this whole story. They had been waiting their whole lives to jump into something like this, to be able to fight for a union. They had watched their grandfathers and their fathers come home from the mines and, it was unsafe or they weren't getting good wages. And so when they saw their opportunity, they jumped right into it. And when I first got to Harlan County, until they trusted me, they wouldn't give me their real names. They would say, I'm Florence Nightingale, or my name's Martha Washington, until they trusted me. So they were the stable, great people that had so much personality and cared so much and were willing to give up their lives for what they believed in.
I mean, Lois, what a hero.
I love Lois Scott so much. She hid her gun in her bra when she went out on the picket line. And she said, nobody's going to notice it because, I'm so big anyway.
And I'll tell you, you know what I told you? I don't give a damn how much money you make as being a sheriff, but don't go against the union. That's all I ask. And when you that's the only thing I ask.
She was so fearless, and you seem like you were really fearless as well. There's a couple of terrifying moments in the documentary, particularly when Basil Collins points his gun at you and the crew. I mean, how did you deal with your fear in those moments?
It's really interesting. I wasn't afraid. I mean, I think when you're young, you think you're invincible and you live forever. And also, he was sort of nice to me sometimes. He would let me go, in the strikebreakers line so I could film what that felt like. But that particular morning was really scary because we were machine gun with semi-automatic carbines. A miner was killed by a company foreman. Women took over the picket lines, and that was really scary. And I got so mad, I had a fishpole with my Nagra, and I just started swinging, to keep them away from me. And they kicked me, but I didn't feel anything because I had the Nagra.
And probably so much adrenaline as well. Was there ever a moment when you wanted to leave, or did it just make you more determined to tell this story?
Oh, no, I wouldn't leave for anything. At the very end, one of the organizers, Houston Elmore, came over to me and he said, there was a price on your head. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? And he said, because we didn't want you to leave. And I said, well, I wouldn't have left. I promise I wouldn't have left. But, the people were so great. At nights, we'd, sit with them and sing songs, and they'd tell me all about their lives. I mean, it was life-changing for me to learn what life and death was all about, but to meet people that are the salt of the earth.
And Harlan County, USA came out the same year as, Taxi Driver, All the President's Men, Network, Carrie. I mean, did you have any idea that it would be successful when it seemed to have so much focus that year, especially on these big blockbusters?
Well, they were blockbusters, and I was a documentary. And I remember going to the Academy Awards with Harlan County, and they put all the Academy awards people together for documentary, and we all crisscrossed hands. And I felt when they said Harlan County, USA, and Lillian Hellman gave me the award, I just felt these two hands pushing me forward. And it was incredible. I was petrified. My heart was beating somewhere in that huge room, but it was wonderful to see Lillian Hellman and to get an Academy Award on Harlan County, USA. And after it was over, of course, I called Harlan County and I spoke to all the women and all the coal miners, and they were screaming, "We got an Academy Award!" And they said they were racing all over town.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And, you know, whenever I watch this film, it feels both like a time capsule of that particular moment in history, and also still powerful, still relevant, still immediate and urgent as ever. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think that today, unions are not doing very well. People are really worried about their jobs. Huge corporations have taken over. Healthcare is something very hard to get. So it's not so very different as it was then.
Yeah, that's very true. Barbara Kopple, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks again for having me.
And after the break, Barbara and I will be discussing episode number 3 from the documentary Women Make Film, a New Road Movie through cinema. Stay with us.